Now we have to graph a hyperbola. This is probably the trickiest one of all the conic sections. But once again, start with the center. And the center is going to come from here, our x's and y's. Now pay attention because they're in different orders, but there's nothing connected to the x. So that means the x coordinate at the center is 0. It does say y minus 2, so the y coordinate is going to be positive 2. Once we have a center, plot it. So 0, 2, that's our center. Now, in order to complete the graph, take it one fraction at a time. First, we're going to start with just the first fraction. This will get us to our vertices because of the denominator. So just like the ellipse, how that was kind of like a radius, we're going to go that far in the y direction. Not 9 units, but 3 units. 1, 2, 3. Square root of 9. 1, 2, 3. These are going to be our two vertices. Now, when we look to the next fraction, this tells us that we're going to go 1 unit in the x direction. So by going out 1 from the center, what this is going to do is help us to create a box. Right? The box goes through our vertices and over 1 unit. The diagonals of this box are what make up our two asymptotes for our graph, which means the hyperbola is going to have two branches coming out of the vertex, and from each vertex it's going to get closer and closer to each asymptote. And there we have a very good graph in red. But we still need to label those two asymptotes as well as the two foci. So as far as the asymptotes go, that's those diagonal blue lines that run through the center of our hyperbola. Since they both run through the center, we're going to use point slope form, which means y equals slope times x. And the point at our center is 0, 2. So the y coordinate is 2, we'll go y minus 2. The x coordinate is 0, so x minus 0. And then look at the slope. Well, looking back at this box, we have a rise and a run. The rise here was 3 units and the run was 1 unit. That means that our slope is going to be 3 over 1, or 3. Now, the positive one is going to be this positive diagonal. We also need to come up with an equation for this negative one. It'll have the same slope. It'll go through the same points, except it'll be negative. So in order to write our two asymptotes, we'll just put plus and minus in front of the slope, and that'll take care of both asymptotes. Finally, for the two foci, we once again have to look at c squared. And in a hyperbola, c squared is a squared plus b squared. Those two denominators. So c squared is going to be 9 plus 1, which is 10. That means c is the square root of 10. And once again, we're going to add and subtract that distance from the center to the foci. And the foci have to happen inside of the curves, which means from the center here, we're going to have to go vertically c units, which means we start at the center, keep the x coordinate the same, and add and subtract square root of 10 to the y coordinate. And there we have everything completely labeled.